Pay attention to the woman in blue scrubs walking across this hospital parking lot in the early morning darkness. She is 29-year-old Sarah Chen, an ER nurse finishing her overnight shift at Mercy General Hospital. She's checking her phone, pulling her jacket tighter against the cold, looking exhausted after 12 hours of saving lives. A dark sedan is idling 3 rows away, headlights off. The driver watches her through tinted windows. Sarah does not know it yet, but this is the last time she will be seen alive. March 15, 2024, Portland, Oregon. Sarah Chen had been missing for 32 hours. She had not shown up for her scheduled 7 p.m. shift on March 14th, something her supervisor described as completely unlike her in 6 years of working together. Sarah had never missed a shift without calling. Her phone went directly to voicemail after 7:23 a.m. on March 13th. Her fiancé, David Park, contacted the Portland Police Department at 2 p.m. on March 14th to file a missing persons report. The initial police response was procedural. Sarah was 29, an adult professional with an active nursing career. The case was logged as a potential voluntary absence. David Park did not accept this classification. He knew Sarah was meticulous about her schedule and would never miss a major shift. Sarah had left her engagement ring on the nightstand, her makeup kit, and her beloved rescue cat Miso behind. She had a final wedding dress fitting scheduled for March 16th. David insisted to the responding officers that something was very wrong. Sarah Michelle Chen was living the dream that thousands of aspiring nurses chase but few achieve. At 29, she had transformed from a first-generation college student from Sacramento into a respected ER nurse with a position at Mercy General Hospital, Portland. Her career included recognition for excellence in patient care, a feature in Portland Monthly's Healthcare Heroes, and a recent promotion to senior ER nurse. Her Instagram account had grown to 89,000 followers who watched her document the healthcare world she had worked so hard to enter. She lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in the Pearl District with David, splitting the rent and supporting each other through the unpredictable cycle of nursing work. She was close with her family, her mother Helen, a retired teacher, her father Robert, an engineer, and her younger brother Kevin. She video called them every Tuesday without fail. Those who knew Sarah described her as driven, professional, and unusually grounded. She had recently been shortlisted for a major hospital leadership program, a career-defining opportunity. But beneath the professional Instagram posts was a harsh financial reality. Despite her growing success, Sarah was barely breaking even. She took every legitimate shift she could get, but had recently started exploring opportunities for support. Night shift work, wedding planning stress, anything that might help her manage the pressure and stabilize her. Mental health. What she didn't know was that someone had been watching her Instagram very carefully, studying her vulnerability, and crafting the perfect opportunity to exploit it. The breakthrough came from David. On March 15th, he remembered Sarah mentioning a support group consultation for healthcare workers with burnout. David accessed Sarah's laptop. They shared passwords for emergencies and found her email inbox. Buried among shift confirmations was a thread from Support Connect Wellness Care Community. .org. The sender identified himself as Dr. Nathan Pierce, a licensed therapist. The emails dated back 2 weeks, progressing through seemingly legitimate details. Confidential consultation, peer support focus, time, 7:30 a.m., March 13th. The final email contained a location, Starbucks parking lot, Northwest Lovejoy Street, a public location, not an office. The email explained that his main office was under renovation, requiring using their temporary meeting space accessed through the parking lot. David immediately contacted Detective Robert Morrison, who had been assigned to the case. Detective Morrison, a 16-year veteran, recognized the pattern instantly. Fake therapy outreach, parking lot meetings, this was textbook predatory behavior. He obtained the hospital's security footage within 2 hours. What the footage showed turned a missing person case into a suspected abduction. At 7:04 a.m. on March 13th, Sarah's shift ended and she exited the hospital. She walked confidently through the parking lot, carrying her work bag, wearing her blue scrubs and black jacket. At 7:09 a.m., a man approached. He wore business casual clothing and carried a leather messenger bag, professional, legitimate. They spoke briefly. Sarah smiled. Then she followed him toward Lovejoy Street. Sarah never reappeared on any camera. She had walked off hospital property and vanished completely. Detective Morrison assembled a task force that included cybercrime specialists and forensic video analysts. Forensic analyst Jennifer Wu spent hours enhancing the footage. The man was approximately 38 to 42 years old, white, approximately 6'0", athletic build, with dark hair and a trimmed beard. Everything about his appearance screamed legitimate professional. But Officer Marcus Lee discovered something chilling. The email address had been created exactly 18 days before first contact with Sarah. The website displayed a professional-looking therapy practice homepage, every image stolen from a legitimate therapist's website. The parking lot was public. There was no temporary meeting space. The entire setup was a fabrication. Traffic cameras captured a dark blue Honda Accord leaving the area at 7:14 a.m., heading toward Interstate 84. The license plate was partially visible. Oregon tag beginning with DMK. Detective Morrison issued a BOLO alert. They now had a face, a vehicle, and a timeline. But they were already 42 hours behind. The partial license plate became the breakthrough. Detective Morrison's team ran every possible combination. By cross-referencing with male owners aged 35-45 within a 60-mile radius of Portland and registered therapy-related businesses, she found him at 9:34 p.m. on March 15th. Nathan Paul Garrett, age 38, of Gresham, Oregon. His vehicle, a 2020 dark blue Honda Accord, carried license plate DMK 76743. A background check revealed disturbing history. In 2016, Garrett had been arrested for attempted kidnapping involving a 23-year-old woman who responded to his career counseling ad. The case was dismissed when the victim declined to testify. In 2019, a restraining order was filed against him by a co-worker at a Portland tech company. The woman claimed he followed her home multiple times. In 2021, a civil lawsuit was filed against him by parents of a 26-year-old physical therapist who claimed he posed as a medical equipment representative and assaulted her. The suit was settled out of court with a non-disclosure agreement. The IP address used to create the fake email traced back to Garrett's home. His Google search history revealed searches for Sarah Chen Nurse Portland, dating back 5 weeks, along with dozens of other Portland nurses' names. By 2:00 a.m. on March 16th, detectives had assembled outside Garrett's residence. They had a name, a pattern, and a location, but they still didn't have Sarah. At 5:47 a.m. on March 16th, a tactical unit executed a search warrant. Officers found Garrett asleep. He was taken into custody without resistance, showing no visible emotion. His first words were, "What is this about?" His tone was calm, almost bored. Forensic teams searched the property. The living room was set up as a home office with professional-looking credentials on the wall. Everything appeared legitimate on the surface. But in the bedroom, investigators found Sarah Chen's belongings, her work bag in the closet, her iPhone in the nightstand drawer, powered off, SIM card removed, her jade bracelet on the bathroom counter. In the garage, they discovered his Honda Accord. In the cargo area, beneath a tarp, they found a blue plastic sheet with dark stains that tested positive for human blood. Several long strands of black hair were collected from the carpet. The most damning evidence came from his laptop. The entire email correspondence with Sarah, screenshots of at least 18 other Portland nurses' profiles, all young women, all with followings between 40,000 and 150,000. But the most chilling discovery was his browser history, timestamped March 13th at 9:47 a.m. Diabetic ketoacidosis timeline, Eagle Creek Trail remote access, how long until missing person investigation. Marcus Garrett had researched how to make her disappear. The search history provided the critical clue. He had taken her somewhere in the Columbia River Gorge. Detective Morrison interrogated Garrett at 9:15 a.m. He had waived his right to an attorney. "Mr. Garrett, do you know why you're here?" "I assume it's about the woman from the hospital," he replied casually. "What woman would that be?" "Sarah, the nurse. I figured you'd eventually trace the emails to me." Garrett admitted to creating the fake email and meeting Sarah. He claimed she came to his house willingly for a consultation. After 60 minutes, she asked about his credentials. When he admitted he wasn't actually a licensed therapist, she became angry and left around 8:45 a.m. If she left, why is her phone in your nightstand? Maybe she forgot it. Detective Morrison slid across his Google search history showing disposal queries timestamped hours after Sarah supposedly left. Garrett stared at the image. "I want a lawyer." The interview ended. Garrett had admitted to being the last person to see her, but he refused to reveal where she was. The race now depended on his search history, the Columbia River Gorge. Forensic analysts examined his phone. GPS data showed his phone traveling from his residence at 7:18 a.m. on March 13th, heading east toward the gorge. The phone stopped at 8:14 a.m. at a location at Eagle Creek Trailhead, remained stationary for 73 minutes, then returned to his residence. On March 17th at dawn, a multi-agency search operation converged on the area. The terrain was brutal. Thick forest, steep ravines, rain-soaked ground, and limited visibility. At 10:47 a.m., a cadaver dog named Atlas gave a strong alert 70 yards north of the trailhead. Beneath a pile of branches and disturbed earth, they found a burial site. 16 inches below the surface, wrapped in blue plastic matching the material from his vehicle, they discovered Sarah Chen's body. She was still wearing her blue hospital scrubs. Her distinctive jade bracelet on her left wrist was visible. Detective Morrison called Sarah's parents at 1:34 p.m. Helen Chen's screams could be heard through the phone. David Park collapsed. The autopsy was performed on March 18th by Dr. Michael Reeves. The cause of death was asphyxiation due to ligature strangulation. Deep furrow marks around Sarah's neck. The hyoid bone fractured, petechial hemorrhaging in her eyes. This was not quick. It took several minutes. It was deliberate. She had defensive wounds on both hands. DNA beneath her fingernails belonged to Nathan Garrett. She had fought for her life. Toxicology found ketamine in her system. He had drugged her. Sarah's DNA was found in 3 locations in his Accord. Fibers from his plastic sheet matched fibers on her clothing. Soil from the burial site matched soil on his tires and shovel. Rope fibers in his garage exactly matched fibers from the ligature marks on her neck. On March 19th, Garrett was interrogated again with his attorney present. Detective Morrison laid out the evidence. "We've recovered Sarah Chen's body. We have her DNA in your vehicle. We have your phone's GPS at the burial location. We have rope from your garage that matches the ligature marks." Garrett was silent for 3 minutes. Then, barely above a whisper, "She figured it out." During the consultation, she started asking about my license, wanted credentials, references. She said she was leaving and would report me. I couldn't let her do that. I had other people scheduled. "So you strangled her." I grabbed the rope. I did what I had to do. Then I panicked. I wrapped her up and drove to the gorge. I thought if I buried her deep enough, no one would find her. "Mr. Garrett, you searched for disposal methods before you killed her." Garrett said nothing more. The state of Oregon versus Nathan Paul Garrett began September 9, 2024. The prosecution's case unfolded over 4 weeks. The trial opened with the hospital parking lot CCTV footage. The jury watched Sarah walk into frame, her whole life ahead of her. They watched Garrett approach. They watched her smile and follow him. Several jurors reacted when they realized this was the last time she appeared on camera. David testified through tears, describing Sarah as his soulmate in every way that mattered. "She trusted people," David said. "She thought if someone claimed to be a licensed therapist, they must be telling the truth." Officer Lee presented digital evidence showing how Garrett researched Sarah for weeks. Dr. Reeves explained how Sarah died. This required deliberate, continuous pressure. The victim would have been conscious and aware for most of it. Several jurors looked away. 2 were crying. The jury watched the interrogation video. They heard Garrett admit to strangling Sarah because she figured it out, and he couldn't let her ruin it. Helen Chen, Sarah's mother, testified last. Through tears, she told the jury about her daughter's dreams. Sarah believed in people. She believed hard work and compassion would be enough. Nathan Garrett used that trust to murder her. The jury deliberated for 11 hours and 18 minutes. On October 3rd at 2:47 p.m., they returned their verdict. Helen and Robert Chen sat in the front row, holding hands. Judge Williamson asked the defendant to rise. "On the charge of murder in the first degree, how do you find?" "Guilty." Helen let out a sob. "On the charge of kidnapping, how do you find?" "Guilty." "On the charge of sexual abuse, how do you find?" "Guilty." Every verdict. Guilty, guilty, guilty. 3 weeks later, Helen Chen addressed Garrett at sentencing. She looked him in the eyes. "You saw my daughter as prey. You studied her, hunted her, and killed her because she realized you were a predator. Sarah had a future. She had dreams. She had a family that loved her. You took all of that. I will never forgive you. I hope you spend every day for the rest of your miserable life knowing what you destroyed." Judge Williamson delivered the sentence. Mr. Garrett, for the crime of first-degree murder, I hereby sentence you to life in prison without the possibility of parole. For kidnapping, 30 years to run consecutively. For sexual abuse, 15 years consecutively. You will spend the rest of your natural life in the custody of the Oregon Department of Corrections. Nathan Garrett showed no reaction. He was led out in handcuffs. He never looked back, never acknowledged Helen's statement, never showed even a flicker of humanity. Helen turned to Detective Morrison and whispered, "Thank you for bringing my baby home." Outside the courthouse, the family made no statement. They simply walked to their car, holding each other, carrying the weight of a grief that would never fully end.